The Old Fighting Cocks is historically, formerly known as the oldest pub in the country. The first brick was laid in 793, but this is actually the oldest inhabited building in Europe, I believe. The first brick was laid here the year the Vikings invaded in Linslade, about an hour and a half's drive up near Leicester. 2,000 years ago, the only bit of civilization in this country was a walled city about 200 yards from behind where you're sitting. And that was Verulamium. They had baths in there, they had the most amazing mosaics, they had running water, they had lavatory systems and all the rest of it. It was like modern day. Anywhere outside those walls, they were still chucking stones at each other. So in terms of history, you think of the cathedral, which is 250 yards that way. That's the oldest place of Christian worship in our country. It was the first. It was never that big at the beginning. Obviously, it's been built over the years and the centuries, but this building was here before that. You can see the ruins of Rome. They ruled the world for 2,000 years, and all of it too, and it's just like rocks now, just ruins. If you don't change, you become like that. And they were like, ruled the world for years, more than anyone else ever.
People don't expect to see a priest in a pub, and I'm often asked if I'm a real priest, and I normally say I'm either a real priest or a very disappointing strippogram, and luckily no one's actually tested that theory. I've been coming to this pub almost as long as Christo's been here. So before I was at St Saviour's, I was up the hill at the cathedral as sub-dean. So there's me at the top of the hill, oldest place of continuous Christian worship in Britain, and Christo's down here in the oldest pub in Britain, and so the two were destined to meet, really. Pubs are essentially about people, you know, whatever the bricks and mortar are. The beer's important, of course it is, but it's a place where people come together and people relax and be themselves.
It's where class and job and opportunity and position doesn't matter. It's a home for anybody. It's a public house. So you come in here, you get a welcome, all right, and you get a smile, and hopefully you get a beer.
And you allow dogs?
Yeah, dogs are more welcome than humans. Don't tell anyone. I've never barred a dog, ever.
I really believe that the priest and the publican do a very similar job, in the sense that we're responsible for holding a space where people can come and be safe and be themselves. They come to share their joys, they come to share their sorrows. You know, you get every kind of bit of human life is there, and you know, people are looked after. You know, for so many people, coming to the pub is the nearest they've got to family. You know, if there's no one else at home, the pub's where they come to see the people who notice when they're not there. So I think we do a very similar job, very similar job. And of course in communities, the pub and the church are often close together, and they're both the places where people gather. You know, some people come to church because the world around them is changing at a fantastic rate of knots. You know, there's social change, there's you know, economic change, you know, old houses are being flattened and new flats are being put up. Everything's different, and somehow they come to church because what they hope for is that it gives them a connection to something which is unchanging. And I think this place does that as well. It's a place where if everything around you in life is changing, you can come here and it's the same as it was when you were here last. And I kind of feel the other side of that, because as a vicar you try and do new things, and you always find that people say, no, just leave it as it is.
I write about beer and pubs. I edited the Good Beer Guide for many years, and I've written about 25 books on the subject of beer. So I've been drinking and writing about it for a very long time.
Is it fun? Is it as fun as it sounds?
It's actually very demanding. You can't drink too much because you've got to remain coherent, able to type and talk. So I've managed to write about 25 books and edited 24 editions of the Good Beer Guide. And I've been very lucky. It's taken me all around the world. I've been to some of the great brewing nations. I love to come home because British beer is different to any other country. Pubs play a very important community role in this country. They hold the country together. If you take a pub out of a community, that community will wither and die. We're lucky in St Albans we have 50 pubs, so we're not short of pubs, but each one is different. So everybody will have their favourite pub, and you'll come here because you like the choice of beer, you like the food, but most of all you like the communal spirit. You know, you can come here and you'll strike up a conversation with a perfect stranger, and he will become or she will become a friend for life.
So originally the building was a pigeon loft. So there's an octagon that you can see here with the wood around the side. The ceiling that you see here is actually fake. It's new addition. It's about 500-600 years old. Because before this used to be a hollow building right the way to the roof. Outside there's a massive round dovecot. So the pigeons used to lay their eggs and live in the octagon, both on this level and the one above it. And it's a huge building if you took the ceiling out and you actually looked. So it started off feeding people. So essentially, if we were here at the beginning, we'd be sitting in a lot of pigeon shit. Thankfully, we've cleaned it since then. And you're lucky enough to be sitting here now 1,200 years later, and apparently the best it's ever been. So your timing's perfect.
So does that mean it's good luck? Subway?
Well, let's look at it that way. For me personally, probably not, but the last 10 years has made me feel lucky, you know. Come through to the old bit. This is the priceless bit, and we'll start here. This is a Jacobean box, about 150 years old. They think the chicken was the last living chicken that we had at the Fighting Cocks before it was abolished. Now, he would have lived here. He'd have had his family, he'd have had kids, there'd have been eggs for everybody and all the rest of it. So we think this was preserved to celebrate cockfighting finishing, and he would have been the last of the cockfighters that would have retired. I named him Dave.
I love the beams. I love the fact that when you come in you have to duck, because centuries ago people were a lot shorter. I think if you were 5 foot in those days you were quite tall actually. Now you have to duck to come in. You have to watch your feet, watch your head. I love the great fireplace, which used to be a bread oven.
This fireplace behind me is one of the spot on the floor is one of the oldest spots in the entire world that has been cursed more than any other spot, because everybody over all the centuries that poked that fire had banged their head. I mean, so we can't make bread anymore purely because it health and hygiene shame. But the flue used to be open up to the chimney, and they used to make bread. And then if we were allowed to do it, we would just have chef make a couple of bits of bread every day, we'd put it in there just so you can smell it.
The history is quite amazing. I mean, apparently Oliver Cromwell came here and stayed here, actually brought his horse into the pub. I know plenty of dog-friendly pubs. This is the only one that's horse-friendly.
His men, his soldiers, were hiding in the trees in the park. And what they were going to do the next morning was go up into the town, into the market, I think it's the oldest charter market in the country, and it's still going, amazing, to take the sheriff's men. Well, he basically did that. So the sheriff went into town to try and drum up some men to fight Cromwell's gang that had come, but Cromwell had beaten him to it. St Albans was taken. It didn't work out too well for Cromwell because he had chopped his head off a few years later. This is, I love this bit, the bar. I don't need to talk to you about the bar. We know what you're supposed to do at a bar. And down here, we have the cockpit and where the old entrance used to be. It's not always been the Yale Fighting Cocks. That came about 150 years ago when cockfighting was abolished. So people used to walk into here, into the pub this way, and it was just the dovecot that we walked into there. And this is where the cockfighting would have happened, or happened. And on a Sunday after church, they'd be coming down from the church, and there'd be normal people every day, and there'd be cockfighting. It was normal for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it was changed from the fishermen at that point, because of the river out the front, to the Ye Olde Fighting Cocks to celebrate the fact that cockfighting was abolished. And we've kept the name, and we're still going to celebrate that today.
It's right in the historic heart of St Albans. In fact, it's in the historic heart of what used to be Roman Verulamium. And this place is so old, you can't believe it. One of the oldest cities in the country. You know, the Romans came here, the Saxons came here, and it's just been evolving over the centuries.
There was a lot of things that were the same, like the walkway through past the pub, which is the pedestrian highway to the city centre. It's like 10,000 people use it. We've got some of the oldest streets in the country, and they look the same. There's ancient photographs, and you can take another picture, and they look identical from before. The shop signs change, you know, the cars are different in the photo. If there are cars, there's horse and carts in some. So it's progressed, but St Albans is still very quaint. A lot of people that come here come back, and there's very few places like it. So it's a bit special.
It's more than just coming to a pub, it's coming to part of the history and the culture of this country.
That there's families over the other side taking pictures, there's people that are always taking pictures of the front. And look, you can't help it. People come here on their dream holidays. We had one example, an American couple. We've been on our dream 3-month holiday and we hit England yesterday. Today we did the House of Parliament and your pub. Tomorrow and it's like House of Parliament, Westminster, then our pub, and that was their dream day, and this was part of it.
Oh, well, you tourists have your photo bubble.
We went today from Colorado.
Oh wow, how cool is that?
Yeah,
Yes,
and it
that's
was
I had
cool
message-
'cause
I'm-
it was snowing there.
Yeah, I know, I had messages from Colorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you see it in the States
I
on the
did.
TV?
I did.
I'm working hard to get it back open, but
Fingers
yeah, we've got a
crossed.
long way to go.
Right.
It'll be all right.
Is this
Yeah.
all due to COVID, is it?
Yes.
Britain and Ireland are the only two countries which have this type of pub culture. In other countries, you have bars. In America, they tend to be named after the proprietor, Harry's Bar, and so on. In this country, we have pubs called the Rose and Crown, and this one, the Fighting Cocks, and they reflect the history of the country.
I think with this place, I mean, St Albans has got so many pubs, and they're all different, they're all unique. But there's something about this place which is new and fresh and has grown and all that stuff, but it's still the same. And it's got its own, it's never lost its character. There's, you know, you go into so many pubs now where you just get a whiff of corporate business. But this place is quirky, it's eccentric in its architecture, its history is just incredible. But it's got a soul, I think, is one way of putting it. There's a heart to this place.
It evolves, so we've got loads of really nice beers on the menu now, and you know, you haven't just got the one or the light or the heavy, and you know, and what have you. We've you know, it's more refined. Our food's award-winning. You know, we've got a top-class chef that's delivering food. So it's pub food, but the thing is, it's the best. So whatever you're having is as good as it gets. We go a bit international as well, and we offer vegan and whatever. You know, and we've got a great selection, but it's exactly the same. Before it used to probably be a Scotch egg or a bit of bread. It'd be beer, and if there was any food, it'd just probably be a one-pot dish. You know, it'd been a traditional dish. I mean, pigeon, remember, it's a pigeon after pigeons, you'd be eating pigeon.
You won awards.
Yeah, we have all sorts of things. Best pub in various different places, whether it be locally, regionally. We've been nominated for top 10 tourism business in the country by a national paper. I was up for a tourism award there. It made a lot of difference. We made a difference to the numbers of tourism visitors to St Albans.
Is it difficult running a pub?
Not if you love it, no.
Years ago, before Christo, the pub didn't actually have a very good reputation for its beer or its food, and he has transformed that. What he has changed is both the welcome and the food and the drink. I've had lunch here with the editor of the food programme on BBC, and no, she's very, very picky. Very, very good food. And he transformed the beer. Fantastic range of beer.
We sell stuff, don't we? To survive, you have to sell booze and you have to sell food. Just because our doors were open at various different points, we weren't open for business. We made the statement, I can no longer meet financial obligations.
I've known Christo for a long time, so we had a conversation sort of on the quiet a while ago, and it was on the horizon as this could happen. And it was just one of those things you hear, it's almost, you know, you hear someone getting their diagnosis of some kind of awful illness, and there's nothing to say.
It's seen wars, It's seen revolutions and it's survived, and now it's threatened with closure, and that would be an absolute tragedy.
Me losing the business here was seen as a death across the world. There was a moment when we knew we were going to be screwed. It's when they shut down pubs for 2 years.
We were stood up in church, I think it was our Harvest Festival or some event that Christo had supplied some beer for, and we just stood there and there was nothing to say. It was just a heavy realisation that that's the reality of the effects of lockdown and everything. And you think, well, if lockdown and COVID and all that stuff was bad enough, but now when you're having the heart pulled out of communities as a result of that, it just prolongs that and is awful. So yeah, it was not a good thing to hear. And of course, since then, every time it's come up, it's the hope that something will turn it around, and there'll be some kind of miracle, for want of a better word.
I mean, I knew that there'd been problems for a couple of years facing all pubs in this country, not just the Fighting Cocks. But obviously I was terribly shocked and alarmed to hear that it got into administration. This place will survive. It can't possibly go out of business because, apart from being extremely successful before the pandemic, it's so historically important, and this listed building could not possibly be closed down. It's got to survive.
I was just a custodian, and while it was with me, apparently it was the best it was in 1200 years, so. Best moments. Well, you know for a fact I'm not going to be able to talk about 80% of them, whether it be the people I was with or what was going on. Well, there have been some great moments. I suppose my best moment is watching the family grow, watching the kids that have been employed here growing and winning awards, the feeling that the customers get from coming in somewhere that's really done something, and then you pull along your community, then you pull along other pubs and they think, oh, we can do that. The impact that I think we made, and you can see that impact from people. That turned out to be my buzz. I don't feel bitter, I feel a bit sad at times, obviously now. But I look back on the last 10 years, man, it took me everywhere, every part of my being. Joy, pain, stress, physical agony, health, everything, but I wouldn't change a bit of it because it's made me what I am now, and I've got the best experience to take that forward. I lost it when I phoned the brewery to tell them that it was over. That was toughy. I should have lost it 12 years ago. I wasn't well, right? I've been waking up every morning from there, whether I've had a hangover or not, waking up in the morning going, yes! Oh, lucky am I, man, how lucky am I? It was derelict not long before I bought it. The guy that I got it off hadn't had it long, hadn't done much with it, and there was an idiot me, I'm going to make it one of the best pubs in the country. Well, I sort of did, we did, the team did.
What gives us strength and assurance is the fact that when we walk through the doors, this place is how it is always, and that tells us that beyond us, there's something which is solid, dependable, that we can have faith in and rest in. And I think this pub does exactly the same.
It's got to be saved for future generations to enjoy.